even though I wasn't expecting this, thank you so much. It's really very touching. And I really didn't plan any remarks, but as much as those accolades mean to me personally, I couldn't have done it without the wonderful team of people I work with here at FVRL. Tremendous administrative team, our staff at our many locations, our amazing friends, foundation, the communities that support libraries. I do this because I love a literate society. I have a very specific reason for having become a librarian, and I will never vary from that place. I'm so thankful that I've made a career in libraries, and I thank you especially for the honor and the privilege of working here. So thank you, and let's get on with this meeting.
Actually, you're not done yet. The foundation would also like to recognize you.
There's just a little token to help you on your retirement. Thank you.
I should do this more often. Huh?
Next, we'll move on to public comments. And before we get started, I know, are there still people outside or did everybody make it in? So I know everyone can't hear very well out there. We'll call names out the door if there are people who are not inside. And if you'd like, if you don't plan on staying and you're finished with your comment and you'd like to give up your chair, feel free. Also, we're not asking you to leave. You can absolutely stay. But for your comment, please don't play videos or audio for us. We want to hear from you. No applause between comments. Keep your comments directed toward the board, not the audience. And be respectful of others. No profanity, please. And we'll keep a timer on the screen. Everyone will have 2 minutes and we will go for 1 hour. We'll alternate between in-person and online.
Our first speaker is Jane Higgins, and our second speaker will be Catherine Gardner.
This won't work.
Thank you. Not long after Amelia became FVRL executive director, we were in the Goldendale Community Library helping Sherry Braga set up for a volunteer appreciation reception. I mentioned to Amelia a compliment one of her references had paid her during the hiring process. Amelia's response was, "That's very nice, but how I would really like to be remembered is as a hard worker, someone who gave their best efforts." Over the years, I have observed that core value in action again and again, along with unfailing kindness and patience. For Amelia, that has meant, and this is a partial list, accepting responsibility for future building hopes and dreams that were adopted before she came, developing a new strategic plan, confronting long after dark people experiencing homelessness camped on the Vancouver Library lawn, keeping the library services available and staff employed during COVID restrictions, getting the OC up and running after the flood and that destroyed equipment, records, materials, and made the building unusable. All this in addition to the routine job of being the executive director of a large, diverse district, and most of the time while under public duress, criticism, and implied threats. Amelia, you will be remembered as you wished, as an incredibly hard worker who always gave their best. And now you are retiring at the time of your choosing with the respect and gratitude of the FVRL communities. Well done. To the board, as you search for a new executive director, I ask you to consider the needs, hopes, and values of all the free tax-paying citizens of this district. Please Be professional, not personal.
Please no applause between comments. Thank you.
After Catherine Gardner, Sue Pennington.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Gardner, pronoun she, her, and I'm a resident of Vancouver. I would like to start out with an apology. To board member Olga Hodges, I am sorry that your local newspaper, the Goldendale Sentinel, misquoted your comments at the February 22, 2022 Goldendale City Council meeting. I see that the paper has issued a correction in response to my statement during the June 26 special board meeting, and I acknowledge that my statement based on the original article was in error. Glad to see the paper cleared that up. Now, per that special board meeting, Ms. Hodges made a statement I actually agree with. Quote, everybody's voice is important, unquote. Because everybody means everybody. Straight, queer, cis, trans, white, Black, Latinx, disabled, immigrant, native, Orthodox, atheist, and every single person and label in between and beyond. Public libraries are just that, public, with representation of the parts of society you personally like and those you don't. By having the goal of representing all aspects of society, libraries are in essence neutral. Neutrality is not the lack of what you personally find distasteful, rather it is the equal representation of all. No one should be saying board members cannot hold their personal beliefs, but when the decisions, actions of the board and its members are detrimental to the representation of all persons in a community based on one's personal beliefs, then there is cause for concern. The goal of FVRL and libraries around the country are to reflect the whole of the communities which they serve. It is for the patrons to make the decision on what they and their families access, and it is for the library to provide a broad, comprehensive, inclusive selection without censor. Anything less weakens the integrity and purpose of a public library. The second point in the trustees' ethics statement proclaims they will work to ensure that the public has equal access to information, both as a constitutional right and as the best way to sustain a democratic way of life. Everybody's voice is important. Thank you.
After Sue Pennington, David Kelly.
I begin with my gratitude for our library system and for Klickitat County branches and services. By making expansive materials available to all, libraries uphold the elements of our democracy. And that's for starters. Our libraries serve the public in countless ways. My heartfelt thanks to our library staff, to our director, and to each of you who serve on the board. I was introduced to intellectual freedom in the 80s when I was active with the Goldendale Library. I am a passionate advocate to this day. We have the freedom to choose library materials for ourselves and our children. Those who differ have the freedom to choose their library materials. Any patron can request specific materials for the collection. Books and materials are thoughtfully purchased to serve diverse interests and needs. Recent public commentary suggests some might lack understanding of the board member role. Besides listening to the public, each member has fiduciary and numerous other responsibilities to assure that the library system is a healthy organization which serves its mission and population. Soon this group will be hiring a new executive director. Much is required of these volunteers. Selecting and displaying books and branches are the jobs of professional library staff and not board members. Each board member comes to the table with unique experiences and values. Every voice matters and all deserve respect. Yet here's the charge: to act in the interest of diverse peoples, close to home and throughout the district. It's complicated, it's a heavy lift, and I thank you.
After David Kelly, Jude Jacobs.
My comments are not nearly as heavily prepared, but I've heard wind of some disruption in past board meetings. And I want you to know that I feel very strongly about the role that our libraries play in our lives. And I want to thank you for what I've experienced here. And hope that it continues to be the liberal, forward-thinking place of information and honesty that I've experienced. I'm concerned that this is in jeopardy by some of the meetings of the past, and want to just state my support for the library system and those that uphold those norms. Thank you.
After Jude Jacobs, Bruce Balmy, I'm not sure.
Give me one second. Oh, there it goes. Hello, my name is Jude. I'm here to speak today in favor of freedom of expression. Censoring books restricts the flow of ideas, knowledge, and diverse perspectives. People should have liberty to access and explore different viewpoints, even if they challenge conventional beliefs. Open dialogue and exposure to a wide range of ideas are essential for fostering critical thinking and a well-informed citizenry. As you guys look to find a new candidate for this position, I think it's really important that we think about that piece of, we hear a lot of people talk about wanting to make sure that the books that are available are appropriate, but what's offensive to one person could be deeply meaningful and relevant to another. And deciding which ideas are permissible can lead to a slippery slope where the rights of readers are compromised and the potential for genuine cultural enrichment is lost. We know that LGBTQ individuals have historically faced discrimination and marginalization, often resulting in the erasure of their voices and experiences. Allowing queer literature to flourish is a powerful step towards combating this marginalization. These books provide a platform for queer authors to share their ideas, stories, foster empathy and understanding among readers from different backgrounds. Censoring queer books perpetuates harmful stereotypes and contributes to ignorance surrounding queer issues. Reading about diverse experiences, identities, and relationships can help challenge prejudices, and additionally, can make a really big impact for queer youth. So seeing themselves represented positively in literature can provide a sense of validation and belonging. By ensuring these books are available, we send a message of support and acceptance to queer individuals, promoting mental health, well-being, and self-acceptance. Thank you for your time.
After Bruce, we have Gabrielle Gilbert.
Hello, my name is Bruce Balmy. I live in White Salmon. Recent local news from the Goldendale Sentinel reported culture conflict at the Goldendale Library. My compliments to the newspaper and their reporter for the clarity and detail of the reporting. Many of the comments I read came from people who identified as Christian. Christianity presents itself as a love-based religion, yet fear permeated many of those comments. When I was young, my dad said, humans learn from mistakes. He said it's smart to know history and to learn from other people's mistakes. Fear-based decisions are mistakes that we don't need to repeat. History teaches us that fear-based ignorance has been the source of some of humanity's darkest periods. The fear that others who are not like us may somehow do us harm has caused much human misery. Fear about sexual orientation can lead us to make hurtful mistakes. What we need is compassion without dogmatism and without complicated philosophy. Compassion with understanding that others are our human brothers and sisters. I was relieved to read in the Sentinel that our county's representative, Olga Hodges, is not interested in banning books. I ask that she and the library board maintain our libraries as resources of information that dispel darkness and bring enlightenment and knowledge to all. Thank you for listening.
After Gabrielle, Emily Losness.
We will never allow any fascist footprint to enter into our library. We will conquer against that. We will never cede to a racist, homophobic bigots, their intolerance, their ignorance. That we will always conquer. A public library program has never harmed a child. A homophobic, bigoted adult will. It is we who believe in the importance of diversity and inclusion. We will be triumphant and we will conquer. It is we who will be allied with the LGBTQ plus community members, our neighbors, our friends, our families, and we stand firmly against heinous bigotry in public spaces that attempt to diminish or erase them. We will not cede not 1 inch in our steadfast support and love. Conquer bigotry, conquer homophobia, conquer racism, conquer anti-Semitism, conquer discrimination. Banning books and restricting ideas is fascism. When bigots come to after our friends and families, we will firmly stand and we will protect them and their children. We will conquer against that ignorance and that vileness. Anti-Semitic racism has no place in our libraries, and we stand firmly in our love and support for our librarian, Ruth, who is a stalwart in our freedoms to be able to access ideas and space. And this we will always stand firmly for. Thank you for your time.
All right, next is Emily Losness, and then Patty Frick. Frick, I think so.
Hi there, my name is Emily and I use she, her pronouns. I'm a resident of Vancouver. Thank you to the board for letting me speak here tonight in support of expression as the fundamental human right that it is. Public libraries are spaces dedicated to knowledge and learning, for expanding our understanding of the world and the people, past and present, who call it home. Like humans, libraries are hardwired for connection. We can get lost in great stories, seeing ourselves in characters who were conceptualized hundreds or even thousands of years ago, and we see how the past has laid the foundation for where we are today. Libraries teach us that in this great big world, while every story is unique, we can find connection, a part of ourselves in every one of them. This is what makes libraries so scary for people who want to make our world smaller, darker, and less compassionate than it really is. This idea that although we're taught otherwise, that we might find some similarities with those that they have been taught to fear. This argument against Drag Queen Story Hour and promoting pride in libraries is the antithesis of what public libraries stand for. Drag queens in this space teach children that love is love, to treat people with kindness, and to never judge a book by its cover. Is that not what libraries are for? I'm sure today we'll hear about how drag queens and the LGBTQ agenda is trying to indoctrinate children with our ideologies. As someone who has actually been to a drag queen story hour and pride, I can tell you firsthand that these scary ideologies are in fact love, kindness, acceptance, and connection. There is no indoctrination, but merely a loving, safe space created where everyone is welcome, so long as you're not harming yourself or others. There will be people here tonight that say that drag queens invoke gender confusion and that is harmful by nature. This doesn't happen. If your kid was questioning their gender, they were questioning long before they saw a man in a wig reading "If you give a mouse a cookie" to them and their peers. What they did see is a man in a wig who was loved and accepted by their community, which isn't harmful, it's healing. This kind of revelation of recognizing that you're not alone and that people will love you and embrace you with open arms isn't harmful, it's life-saving. And that connection, this knowledge turned into empowerment, is exactly what libraries are for. Thank you.
After Patty, Melinda Heindel.
Hey there. My name is Patty Fink, and I am a city councilor here in White Salmon, but I am not speaking as a city councilor today. I'm speaking as a library member and as a resident. I want to begin by thanking you for being here in White Salmon. I think it's great for you to see how much the library means to our small community. It is a gathering space, a place where people can come and meet each other in meetings, or just by happening to come in the door. Some place where we can do research or just read a fun book. It's a space where all are greeted and treated with respect. I love the library and celebrate the diversity of ideas, community members, and books that can be found here. While I welcome the voices of those with whom I disagree, I don't believe anyone should victimize or demonize anyone It is my belief we need to seek to understand and celebrate the many diverse ideas, talents, and values that each and every one of us bring to our community and to our library. My hope is that the Fort Vancouver Regional Library Board will continue to ensure that libraries in their network can continue to be open and welcoming space for us all to learn, explore, and grow together.
Right, next is Melinda and then Sarah Wu.
My name's Melinda Heindel, and we, the members of the White Salmon community, the Friends of the White Salmon Community Library, would like to speak, but with just one voice. And so the Friends of the Library that are here today, if you would stand up, we can, or raise your hand, and we can show our support for the board. As a community that embraces all the richness and the vitality and the energy that our differences in opinion, our differences in life experience bring to our library, we just wholeheartedly support and offer profound thanks to Amelia for her past work, to the board for the work and the time that you give to embracing and encouraging that energy and vitality, and very much so to our White Salmon Library staff for their work and everything that you all have done to maintain our freedom to read. Thank you.
Right, after Sarah, Randy Schmidt.
My name's Sarah Wu. I live out in the woods outside of Goldendale. And at the last meeting in Goldendale, I was very disturbed about the use of grooming. And I know about grooming. My parents tried very, very hard to groom me as an outdoor lover. They didn't show me just displays. They took me out. They gave me treats. They told me I was wonderful for enjoying these things with them. And lo and behold, after I went through puberty, I began to thank them because this was my real nature. And they encouraged me along that way. Now I tried the same thing with my own kids. They got to their majority and they were so happy they could say, "No, Mom, that's not our real nature. Don't you dare try to groom me." So displays aren't grooming. And I wondered, well, even with displays, what are the displays that I just really would have a hard time going to look at with my children, my grandchildren? And I thought, oh, I know, assault weapons. And then I thought, you know, Sarah, you don't know enough about assault weapons. There's a great portion of society who are into it now. Maybe that's what they should do. And even a superficial introduction will make me a better person to deal with the society so we can all work together. So thank you for expanding my mind in all the ways you do, even sometimes it's just a little superficial. Thank you.
Right after Randy Schmidt, Pam. Zim, okay.
Thank you for letting me speak to you today. I am speaking to you today to object to allowing drag queen story hours events at our libraries. Drag queens are males dressed in drag clothing and makeup to imitate and exaggerate female gender, and they read stories to children with the intent of causing gender confusion. It's not my idea, it's from their own website. That idea has been removed since July, but July of last year, it was firmly in the website for drag queen story hours. There's no hatred or bigotry behind the desire to protect children from persons that have the specific goal of creating gender identity confusion. Why would I define What they do is abuse. Well, it is readily acknowledged that youth that experience gender identity confusion are at a significantly higher risk for self-harm than the general population. This is well documented by the American Pediatric Society and the AMA. Let's talk facts. Per the Household Pulse Survey from the US Census Bureau of 2022, there is a 60,000% increase, a 60,000% increase in transgender identification between Boomer generation and Gen Z. This is not caused by some rapid uptick in human evolution. No, this is caused by grooming our young children, and the Drag Queen Story Hour's intent is to groom our children. Please end this harmful practice of allowing men to masquerade as sexualized females to interact with our young children in our libraries with the intent of causing gender confusion. Thank you.
After Pam Zim, Anna Nolan.
Have to bring it way down for me. I don't have it all written up, but I will tell you that the library here in White Salmon was the very first place, I think even before the grocery store, that I went. And my very first friend is sitting here, Kathy Von Mosch, because she worked in the library before I even met my husband, and he brought me here. So it's my place. And now, most recently, I have been in charge of a literacy program through our Rotary Club, and I choose children's books that we read every week, 7 or 8 of us Rotarians, and I get to choose them. And the library has really helped me choose them. And then we purchase them, and a child gets a book and the center gets the book. And I want to tell you that I have learned more from reading children's books in my 7th decade than probably I've learned, just overall. And it's been wonderful. And I love the diversity. I am a teacher and a social worker. And when I am in the Head Start or any school, I kind of have an idea. I see diversity and I feel it and I love it. And I always want it. And I think that's it. I feel pretty normal, but I love diversity.
After Anna, Tiffany Hine.
I'm Anna Nolan, and I have enjoyed libraries clear across this nation. We travel, and it was PC before cell phones, that we would stop at libraries and connect because we lived off grid. So libraries are important, and it's wonderful to be welcomed. I appreciate the board. In many previous library board meetings, it has been stated that parents are no longer willing to bring their children to the library based on the gender bending materials scattered throughout the library. The gender bending indoctrination of children and the public is currently a politically popular position. Our taxpayer funded institutions should not be indoctrinating young children into radical, I don't know if I have it right, LGBTQ ideology and transgenderism. I continue to implore you to please make the library safe for all people and a welcome place for everyone. That may be accomplished by housing individual topics in individual sections. I have repeatedly mentioned this both in speaking and in monthly writing. Please do not scatter gender bending materials, especially sexually explicit materials, throughout the library within easy access for young children. And please do not continue another Drag Queen Story Hour presentation. Thank you.
After Tiffany, Lynn Mason.
Hi, my name is Lynn Mason. Thank you for hearing my comment today. I live in White Salmon. I just wanted to start with a personal story. The fact that my son grew up going to this library from the time he was a baby. We came to many programs at this library. In fact, in this very room, I had him on my lap as several months old in Heidi's children's program. And from there, we just continued our whole journey with the library. My son loved chess. At the age of 5, we would come in here and play chess. We checked out stacks and stacks of books over the years, especially in the grade school years. So much so my back would hurt from hauling around all the books that we could check out at a time. The librarians, they knew me and they knew my son's name. When we needed info, we could look it up and they would help us. When it came time to talk about the birds and bees, other parent friends recommended books that I checked out from the library, and that made my job a lot easier. My son would meet his friends here after school to play on the computers. My son grew up in the library and he was not harmed. In fact, he flourished because of this community resource. I have the fabulous leadership to thank from this library for all the things they've done for us over the years. And I couldn't be happier with everything. I'm just trying to look at the countdown. But as a person my son is now 19 and we've been coming here for 19 years. And now I look around and I see people and hear comments from other meetings. Oh, I'm sorry. And I'll just wrap up with that. But I thank you for your time and everything you've done for us. Much appreciated.
Is Tiffany Hine online? Okay. Quill Onstead. And after Quill, Kathleen Von Mosch.
Hi, my name is Quill Onstead and my pronouns are they, them. I'm here to speak in support of Drag Queen Story Hour as a genderqueer member of the library community. Over the past several months, I've listened to community members denounce the need for equity work in the library. We don't want these books or programs here. They are not acceptable in our community. They speak as if their community is a monolith, a largely white Christian monolith. They leverage their own identities to disguise their discrimination as calls for equity. Equity welcomes everyone, but it cannot be used to say, to include us, you have to exclude them. Equity is buying more books in foreign languages and ensuring that those books are searchable in the catalog for their readers. Equity is having bilingual staff because not everybody speaks English, and that should not prevent them from enjoying the library. And yes, equity is having things like Pride Month displays and programs like Reflecting Rainbows, programs like Drag Queen Story Hour. Because equity is looking at who is not always at the library, but could be, and who should be. Drag Queen Story Hour is a vital program that teaches kids about gender identity in an age-appropriate manner. Parents who do not approve of Drag Queen Story Hour do not have to bring their children to any Drag Queen Story Hour programs. Please allow the staff of FVRL libraries to present Drag Queen Story Hour and have the district live up to the ideals espoused in FVRL Library's equity statement. Thank you for your service to the community.
After Kathleen, Gigi Euthady? Pomerantz. Oh, I don't know why it said that. Gigi Pomerantz. Thank you.
I'm Kathleen Von Mosch, and the first Fort Vancouver library that I went to was in Stevenson in 1970. And I couldn't believe how fantastic the collection was there. My husband was working for the Forest Service and we lived in a lot of different places, but that was the best library I'd ever been in, even in the Bay Area. So then when so I've lived here in the Northwest Skamania County and Klickitat for more than 50 years now. And I have worked for Klickitat County Public Health. I worked for Department of Social and Health Services. I worked for the Fort Vancouver Library. I have been a public school teacher for 17 years. I am a small business owner. I was a Peace Corps volunteer. I have always served a varied public, and I am proud to have done so in my life. And I want to just say, as a library patron, for more than 50 years, I am very, very grateful for all the outstanding resources that have been provided to me and to our broad and more diverse community. We have seen such incredible changes here in this stretch of the Columbia River Gorge, but I am concerned when topics or groups or certain types of people are thought to be unwelcome or causing harm in our library. And I don't think that I've ever seen anything like this until recently. The last thing I want to say is that when I have been confused about sexuality, any subject, I go to the library and I find what I need to find understanding.
Gigi Pomerantz.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Gigi Pomerantz and I live in White Salmon. I'm here to speak about the importance of access to a wide variety of books for all people. It's shocking to think in this day and age that books may be censored. It reminds me of Nazi Germany when books by Jewish authors were burned. If you are not interested in a book, please don't read it. But what gives you or anyone the right to decide what is appropriate for me to read? Isn't that a First Amendment right, freedom of the press? Written text is protected speech. It is important to recognize the impact that books written by and about minority communities, including LGBTQ, African American, Jewish, Muslim, or any other minority, have both on members of these communities, as well as opening the minds and hearts to the humanity of people who may not be like them. I've heard that some people are afraid that if their children read books about gays or transgender people, that it will influence them somehow to become like them. Is that true of books about animals and animal culture? Will your child turn into a bear or an ape? What about books about history? Will those be next on someone's list? Those who don't like to remember history are bound to repeat it. Will we go back to enslaving people or putting them in internment camps because they are different than us? I say no. No to banning books in our community, in our state, and in our country. Our public libraries serve all the people of our community, many who cannot afford to buy books. They serve our LGBTQ community, our Native American community, our Buddhist, Druid, Jewish, Sufi, and Muslim community, our African American community, our immigrant community. Do not remove books from our library because you do not like them. You may stay home and read whatever you like. Thank you.
Next is Gary Wilson, and after that, Margot Logan.
This month marks the end of an era. I want to make it known that I have never publicly or privately said to anyone that Amelia should be fired or stepped down. I always prefer to work with people and give sound reasons, clinical studies, and arguments to support my case. I know recently many have been asking and even threatening board members to resign. That is not going to happen and is basically just a lot of hot air. I was not in favor of people saying that about Amelia, and I'm not in favor of that now either. The fact is, every library board member comes in with expectations and beliefs. No one is discriminating against anyone, with the possible exception of the discrimination of the Christian community and their values, who we heard from loud and clear last month in Goldendale. They feel underrepresented in our libraries, and they are. They are the new marginalized community. Some previous marginalized communities are now magnified communities, as I pointed out in my last library board meeting. Let me ask, what community has had a month of parades for decades, and now lines of clothing celebrated on TV, in commercials, sports, etc.? Marginalized is being confused with magnified. To change the subject, let me ask the question, does pornography belong in the library? Does everything really go, even in children's sections? We have to make some determinations there. And about no hidden agenda, at the last Drag Queen Story Hour, drag queen Onalicious Mercury asked a young boy what he wanted to be when he grew up. And the boy innocently said Spider-Man. And Onalicious immediately gender confused the boy by saying, or Princess Spider-Man. They are coming in with an agenda. Lastly, probably like Amelia, I won't be at the next board meeting in August. I'll be back east visiting my mom and sister. So I'll hand the baton off to others and we'll be back at September's meeting. Thank you all.
After Margot, Brett Stevenson.
Thank you to the board for listening. It's quite the conversation that's going on today. There's a sea change. In terms of Twitter, Twitter is now uncensored. And I'm beginning to see that conflict is changing from conflict to conversation. So I kind of would encourage other people to see that too. I wanted to donate another book to the library this time. And this one is on Donald Trump. And it's written by a Harvard psychiatrist, Sheldon Roth. And he makes the point of Trump being psychologically sound. So I want to give that to you. In terms of Trump, Norman Vincent Peale was his pastor. So the power of positive thinking, he grew up with that. He also was into Carl Jung. So I don't know if you have The Undiscovered Self. I would suggest getting that if you don't in the library. And he also liked the movie Citizen Kane. So it'd be interesting to read about all those aspects of Donald Trump. Now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is running for president. And I'm seeing people kind of reacting to him like they react to Trump. So I don't know about this library. I called Barnes and Nobles yesterday, and they didn't have any books written by Robert Kennedy Jr. And when I was asking that they stock them, there was, I could feel the person being angry, almost like they get when they get angry about Trump, if you ask about Trump. Child sex trafficking is getting more and more exposed right now with The Sound of Freedom. That movie has beat out Harrison Ford and Tom Cruise at the box office. So I just would really encourage that we start looking at these other topics. And I thank the board for listening.
Hi, my name is Brett Stevenson. I'm from Stevenson, Washington, and my great-grandpa built this library. Who in this room identifies as a Christian? Can I see a show of hands? There's a few of us.
Please keep your comments addressed to the board. Thank you.
Does anyone on the board identify as a Christian? You do? Anybody identify as Jewish? Ruth, I heard you were Jewish. Are you Jewish
So
practicing?
this is time for you to make comment.
I
to the
am, and you
board,
said
not-
I could
Don't
talk to you.
interrupt me, please. Thank you. This is time for you to
Pause.
make comment to the
Pause,
board,
pause.
not to ask questions of people. Please continue.
I'd like my time back, please. So people don't understand this, but in Judaism, there are 6 genders, 6. Now, in New Testament Christianity, marriage is between a man and a woman, and that is in red. Jesus said that. So who gets to go to heaven? Because that's all I care about. There are some old people in this room and I want to see you all go to heaven. In Judaism, there is no heaven. Who gets to go? Do you not know that the unrighteous will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived. Neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor homosexuals. That is in the book of Corinthians in the New Testament. Now, I didn't invent Christianity. I didn't get to invent the word of God. I only get to follow it. And what you people are doing here are shameful behaviors in the eyes of God. And if there's any confusion in here, we need to be more respectful of each other, but we also need to follow the moral
Can
code that
you
is
continue
found.
addressing the board, please,
I
not the
am.
audience?
I
Thank you.
can look in any direction I like. Olga, you have a responsibility to the rest of us to protect the children in our homes. And this is supposed to be a family-friendly environment. And sex perverts and children do not mix. And I should not be the one up here saying this. Now, I have a child at home and I want her to see puberty. And I think that puberty is a human right. Thank you.
We do still have some time left in our hour. Is there anyone who did not get to comment that would like to speak? Hi, please go ahead and just say your name before you begin.
Okay, thank you for allowing us to speak. My name is Chris. I pay taxes that support this library. I am here this evening to ask you to not bring back Drag Queen Story Hour. I'm not asking you to remove books, but as was mentioned earlier, if those books could come together in one space and be available to those that want to check them out. I'm not opposed to that, and I feel a lot of us are not opposed to that aren't here this evening. So please consider what I'm asking you, and thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Is there anyone, are you checking online? Okay. Okay. Would anyone on the board like to respond or ask questions? All right, we're closing public comment. Next, so we will be going to executive session shortly, but oh. So the Fort Vancouver Regional Library District Board of Trustees will now meet in executive session. Did you want me to do the break first? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. We're going to change it up a little bit because we do have Amelia's retirement today. So I'm going to invite Ruth if she's ready to.
For those people participating online, we are going to take about a 15-minute break and then a 15-minute executive session that we'll announce at the end of the break.
Yeah, I will. Thank you all. Thank you for the wonderful treats. They were so good. So you guys are feel free to keep talking. I'm just going to make a quick announcement. The Fort Vancouver Regional Library District Board of Trustees will now meet in executive session to discuss personnel as allowed by RCW 423110. The Board of Trustees will be in executive session until 7:25 p.m. The board is expected to take further action following the executive session. We're going to get started. We're going to be moving on to the report section. If you could please find your seats, please find your seats. If you do want to keep talking, that's fine. If you just take it outside for a little while. Where'd Amelia go? Oh, there she is. The first report will be with Dave Scott. Can those of you who still are talking, please step outside? Thank you so much. The first report will be with Dave Scott, the Washougal City Manager.
Hi, and with him this evening is Washougal Mayor Dave Stevie.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Hey, I think I'll say some things before Dave breaks into the presentation. But hey, I just want to say great things are happening in Washougal, and one of them is going to be our new library. And we have been really successful this last year bringing back money to Washougal. And one of them is our civic renovation, I think, project is what we're calling it. But everything that we're doing for that really is an anticipation in tying in the new library building. You know, we've got kind of the pocket park that's going to go around City Hall, and then a dog park, splash pads, redoing kind of an outdoor kitchen in the back. But all of that expansion, which is going to include additional parking, is all kind of in the master plan of the library. So I just want to say it's still a priority for us. And I think right now we really want to put some focus on that project and include that into our whole master plan of what we're doing downtown. So we're really excited about our partnership. And Judy, I heard you out there, but yeah, we've got a lot to do, but we really want to keep that momentum going and build that. That's all I got to say. Thanks. All right. Did you guys hear that?
Thank you so. Yes, my apologies. Thank you so much.
Hey, no worries. Glad to be here.
Next, we'll move on to the White Salmon Community Library Branch Report with Ruth.
I'm sorry.
Is there someone? Do I have this wrong? I'm sorry.
It's okay. Dave Scott's going to do a presentation for us on the Washougal project.
Yeah.
Got it.
Thank you, Amelia. And let me first, before I jump into this presentation, just give my greetings to everybody on the board and the staff there at the library district. We really value our partnership that we've had over many years. And I think this might be Amelia's last meeting. You're retiring at the end of this month, unless somehow you got talked into not. But I just wanted to say publicly what a pleasure it's been to work with you, Amelia. You've been a great partner, and I'll certainly miss working with you and just wish you all the best moving forward. And I'm a little jealous. So it looks like you've got my presentation up. So I'll just give an indication when to move on to the next slide. So we wanted to talk to you about the project the mayor referenced, our civic campus project. So we'll talk a little bit about our historic partnership and then move on to the project concept, project timing, and what our next steps are. So as we've mentioned, we really value our partnership. Obviously, you guys have been operating out of our building for a long time under a long-standing lease, and we're really grateful for your presence in our community. And we've been pleased to be able to provide some supplemental support as well in some of our other facilities to help you out with some storage needs. I know we've got a master gardener program, and those are just two examples of the kind of ad hoc partnership stuff that we do working together. And we've been most recently, specifically over the last several years, really planning together jointly for our future library branch and our future campus improvements. Next slide, please. So a brief description of the project, and then I'll have some visuals. So the Washougal Civic Campus Project, we're also calling it the Town Center Revitalization Project. it really will transform our town center campus into a really great kind of one of a kind outdoor community space. And it really, as the mayor said, is intended to complement your construction of your new Washougal branch for our facility. And as you know, we are prepared on our property to provide some of the required parking that's necessary for your project so that you can maximize your footprint on your site. As part of this project, we'll be trying to create our first permanent off-leash dog park on the north end of the property up against the railroad tracks. If you've been out to the branch, a splash pad and park just to the west of the current branch, improve our sidewalk facilities, and enhance programming at our community center, which shares a building with the library branch. And this is going to bring a lot of benefits. It will enhance our town center and support the local economy by attracting business investment and tourism, provide cultural opportunities with these new features, and get everybody outdoor and have the opportunity for quality outdoor recreation. And then support pedestrian safety, because folks will be parking across the street from your new branch. And so we want to make sure the ped connectivity there is safe. And we're looking at, well, at least it's about a year-old number, so it's probably higher now, as we're all used to, but about $6.5 million to deliver this project. Next slide, please. So here's an overview graphic, just to orient you on this. At the very south, you can see kind of a new building there in gray. That is your new library branch right there. So we're all very excited about that. And then the dentist is just to the east of that. And the existing city hall is right to the north in cream color. You can see the round city council chambers. And then the library branch is just to the west of that with our community center. So this project will leave intact the existing cream colored facilities that we have. But if you've been out to our site, when you look at the parking that you see here, you can notice that this is very different than the current situation. So this is an expanded, enhanced parking lot with quite a number of new spaces, some of which will be provided for library patrons so that you can get your permits for your branch. To the north, tucked up against the tracks, will be the dog park, and there'll be a small area, a small dog area and a large dog area, and then a shelter in the middle. And we'll look at some graphics in a minute. The sort of golden colored space just to the south of that, north of our community center, is going to be kind of our outdoor kitchen. We're excited about that space. And then the blue shaded area, we own 2 houses that we use for office and storage right now. So those would come out. This is directly across the street from your new branch. And there we would have a splash pad, a restroom, some picnic and shelter facilities, a play area, and probably some kind of a connection into the community center building that would be operative, particularly once you are able to move into your new library branch. So that's an overview of the project. And on the next slides, we have some more details. So this is a graphic showing the dog park. And you can see the little dogs and the big dog side, and the shelter in the middle, and some of the parking tucked up against that, and some of the potential features that we would have on the left-hand side that are shown from other dog parks out there in the universe. And on the next slide, we have that community recreation and outdoor seating area, which is just to the north of the community center. And this is the architect's version of what that could be, with an outdoor kitchen, a little community gardens space there, some seating, maybe some game area on the right-hand side, and some example photos of what that might look like when it's done. And on the next slide, we look at the pocket park and splash pad. So the building just to the right of the splash pad and playground and all of that, that's the portion of the building which is your existing branch. As you know, the architect showing a beautiful mural there. You can kind of see a new door tucked in there. So we're really excited about this particular component of the project. It'll be a great feature, and this will be right across the street from your new library branch. And then on the next slide, just another view of that looking south. If those trees weren't there, you'd be looking at your new library branch. And some photos of what it might look like when it's done. And then this is, apologize if it's hard to see this, just kind of shows our schedule. But we did receive funding from the state legislature this past legislative session, significant funding that's we're going to combine with our remaining ARPA funds to deliver this project. So we are fully funded for this project, and we are now in the RFQ development and advertisement phase, and we'll get a designer on board soon and get a bid packet ready and move to construction. So we're really excited, and hopefully that the construction window that you see there is not too optimistic, but hopefully we'll be able to meet this schedule. So we're really excited. We're moving forward on this project. And then on the next slide, I think we just talk about our next steps. So one of the things that Amelia and I have been working on is an MOU regarding the partnership that documents, due to your leadership transition, some of the things that we've been working on together. For example, the fact that, you know, we'll be providing some parking, how we would cost share on our project with respect to that parking, and how we're working together. And then we also need to continue to work together to secure funding for your branch. We know that you are partially funded for this project through fundraising, donations, but there's more that needs to be done. And so I am pleased to let you know that our council has given us the green light to partner with you in this next legislative session, in the short session, when there'll be a supplemental capital budget, and that our supplemental capital budget request will be basically to support you or to jointly request with you funding for your branch. And Amelia and I have been talking about, you know, what amount that should be, and we need to work that out, but we will not be making a separate capital budget request for some other project for the supplemental budget. We will focus on this project because we really believe it's super important for our community, and we're really excited to try to see this branch come to fruition as soon as possible. And then, of course, we'll execute on this project while all of that is happening. And hopefully, you know, by the time we're into construction or getting close to the end, maybe you'll be able to be under construction if we can secure the funding. So I don't know if that's it. I think the last slide might just be questions. If you guys have any questions for us, and just thank you for your partnership. We're excited for the new branch and look forward to helping secure some funding, perhaps in this supplemental capital budget next year.
Yeah.
I do have a question. I don't know if it's for Amelia or I saw the MOU mentioned. Will that be something that will be coming through us, or is that, can you talk more about that, please?
Sure. It's actually more of an agreement on where we're at in the process to date. So we worked cooperatively with the city of Washougal. There, Dave, help me out with Mitch's position. I think he's your head of planning.
Yeah, community development director.
Thank you. I was on our design development team. And so one of the things we came to agreement on early in this process was to use our architects for their first phase of design work. So what you've seen there was through our contract that we already have with our architects. So we've put some money forth into this project already. The city has a requirement, and forgive me, Dave, if I'm not going to get the number right. I think it's 14 or 18 additional spaces will be required to have offsite because based on what's available for us on the street, and then the total square footage of the building, we have a certain number of parking spaces required. And so the city's agreed to give us a certain number of spaces in their new lot We'll offset that cost by what we've committed to date, and then they'll figure out what the remaining cost is.
Right.
Thank you.
That's a good summary. I think ultimately there would probably be, since there'll be some financial transactional dynamics, there might ultimately need to be an interlocal agreement or something like that that would memorialize the shared parking and provide support for your finance folks to be able to remit any payments to us around the cost of construction for the spaces that would be reserved for you. I
Yes,
think
and
this
I would-
MOU just kind of sets the stage for that so that we've kind of got that documented so that we don't have to recreate that wheel, you know, at some point in the future.
Yeah, I agree, Dave, and I think that IGA would then come to the board for approval.
Right.
Question? I'm assuming that since it's joint construction, that we're gonna have to abide by certain standards, not just building standards, but for the appearance of the building. And
So it's not joint construction. The parking lot belongs to the city. They'll develop that
Okay.
piece. The library belongs to us. We'll develop that piece.
do we own the property?
We own the property.
Okay.
We will follow whatever the city's codes are though, for development of that building.
Well, and during the design development process for the new branch, there was excellent outreach and engagement with the community and with partners, including us, obviously as a key partner. And so we've been fully involved in terms of helping to shape what that branch is going to look like. And we're very excited with what we've seen.
And there won't be any requirements for the similar opening hours, anything like that?
It'll be operated by FVRL.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Any other questions?
Chair, if I could just in closing, return the thanks to you, Dave. It's been such a pleasure to work with the city of Washougal. You're a tremendous partner to the library district, and the support you give us at that particular branch has just been tremendous. Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank
Yeah, I
you.
want to see this come to fruition. We're excited.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mayor Stevie.
Next up is White Salmon Community Library Branch Report with Ruth.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ruth Schaefer. I am the White Salmon Valley Community Library Branch Manager, and I am also serving as the Public Services Director for an interim period until we can hire a new one. This is very loud. This opening scene is a little bit of the character of White Salmon. We have an annual sleepover party for stuffed animals. Once the animals are in the library and the lights are out, the party begins. And I see these two snuck out during the night and we're sitting out on looks like they're on the book drop. Anyway, the White Salmon Valley Community Library is known for a couple of things. And one of them is our sleepover party, but the other one is our community reads. We have we have the first community reads program in the Fort Vancouver Regional Library District. It's called Kubduga, which is a good book spelled backwards. But we've gotten a lot of feedback that people can't even say the word Kubduga. So we're moving more to using the expression community reads. And of course, we're right in the middle of summer at your library. So I thought I would share that silly graphic as well. Nope, go back. Yeah, we go. Nope, there we go. So it's really the people who make the difference. You can have all the books and computers and video games and whatever in a library, but without the people, it's nothing. So these big pictures, this is the team in White Salmon. They are really fabulous. They have been, many of them working here for many years, and those are the big pictures. These are the people, when you walk into our library, they're going to be here to help you. But I chose to put just a few of the background people up there because this team here, that's part of the facilities team. That's the fleet. They bring us things. They run things up and down the gorge for us. And James is the man on the far end. He changes our light bulbs and fixes everything for us. These people make us look good. And I really wanted to thank facilities. Also, the next bar down, that is our communication and marketing departments, with the exception of the director. The director for facilities isn't up there either. And these are the people who make our paper look good. They make our flyers and our posters and our social media posts, and they make us look pretty. And they encourage and inspire you all to come into the library and use the library. So I wanted to highlight them. And then the last group of people, poor Allison. Allison belongs up here. Allison is our web developer. She maintains our websites and our look and feel and does all kinds of behind the scenes on our website for us. And so she belongs up there too. But then the vertical team, that is a small group of the HR department, not with their directors either, because without them, these people wouldn't be here. And I just really, whenever I have the opportunity to talk about my library, I really want to talk about the people behind my library. We're the face of the library. We're the ones that say, hi, welcome, come on in. And the people, other people, and there's another 200 people besides that are up here. They're what really makes the library go. So I wanted to support everyone. Everybody combined reaches a very diverse, we've heard a lot about diversity today, but this is a very diverse community. We have 9 churches in this community. We have two different sets of monks. We have Druids. We have a Druid Abbey. We partner with Hood River for the Jewish community. We have a Baha'i center in this community, and just a lot of conversation related to a wide variety of religions. But what's up here is this is the poet laureate. She's a Native American woman. She came here and spoke with us to bring the Native voice forward through poetry. This is a collection I spoke about last month of books that are about immigrants from all over the world. These books are designed to read out loud to children to start the conversation. We have a globe front and center in our library. We have an altar that was put together on the far end there from our community partner WAGAP to celebrate Dia de las Noches and Heritage Month, Latino Heritage Month. We've got our disability display here, a group of teens who find themselves in the library every Wednesday playing Dungeons and Dragons. And then I decided to put this guy in here up top. He doesn't normally look like the kind of person that represents diversity when we're talking about diversity, but he's standing there holding his Christmas centerpiece. He was the only man in the room. It was diversity. It was a room full of women that were making these Christmas decorations, and he came in, and look how proud he is of being part of that team. So diversity has a lot of definitions. Thank you. One of the groups of women that we reached out, marginalized group this year, is Women's History. We had an enormous Women's History program. This month we had Lou Palermo come speak. She's with the Maryhill Museum of Art. She did a really lovely presentation for us on the history of art without men, what it would look like if we really celebrated women artists. We had a beautiful gallery showing here, Women of the Gorge. That show is now at the Interpretive Center in Stevenson, that art show that there's a couple pieces you'll see. That's not what's on the wall, actually, behind one of the women artists. We had 4 different women artists come do workshops for us. And then we partnered with all of these organizations to make this happen. It was the Grange, it was the museum, it was the White Salmon Arts Council. Seroptimus International really supported us. And of course, this is the logo for the Friends of the White Salmon Valley Community Library. Anytime you see that, I'm talking about the Friends. It was an incredible month. That picture is, we also had 4 engineers come from University of Oregon, women engineers talking to women, girls, STEM students about becoming engineers. It was a fantastic month. Just wanted to highlight that. And and these are just a few of the pieces. These are the pieces, many of these are up now in the museum in Stevenson, because when they saw, the curator for that museum saw the show here, she was like, oh my God, we need to have this at the museum. So if you go to the Interpretive Center in Stevenson, you'll see these pieces up there. And white salmon is definitely wild about nature. Every year we do an annual month-long series on nature, and these were the topics that we spoke about this month. That photo is, we did a thing on women botanists. I wished I'd had them here in March. And we did this program up at the Grange. We partnered with the Grange because you can see this room's not very big, and we have about 80 people come to each one of these programs. In addition to being wild about nature, we also support the Nature Lovers Book Group. It's one of the niche book groups that comes out of Fort Vancouver Regional Library. It was spearheaded right here in White Salmon. These are some of the books that we read. And we were in person only before the pandemic. We've moved to a hybrid or an OWL program. This is our OWL. This is my representation of our OWL. OWL is a camera that allows you to have people on Zoom. It makes a hybrid meeting much easier. I won't get too much into the OWL. Anyway, Wild About Nature, Nature Lovers, that's us. We also were part of the Coming to America, which I spoke to you about last month in the Welcome to America. It was hybrid, the OWL. And this was celebrating immigrants from across the globe, focusing on the Jewish immigrant experience in the turn of the last century and before and after World War II. It's a Yiddish typewriter, by the way. It types in Yiddish. It's very cool. We love our volunteers. They come in all shapes and sizes. Mostly they're older white women, and we love them. Many of them are here tonight providing snacks for us. These women were speaking at the volunteer reception, which is in that picture too, hosted in Stevenson. And they really were, these two women were speaking about what they get from volunteering, and what they get, it doesn't compare to what we get from their service. So I really want to thank the volunteers. They've got a book sale going on. These two volunteers, these are two different volunteers, not part of the Friends group. They're hanging an art show for us. And then that Sherry Braga's picture up in the corner, she's our volunteer services coordinator, and we can't live without her or our volunteers. So I just want to say a shout out. Thank you to all the volunteers across the district. We love you. And you can't talk about white salmon without really talking about Kubduga. So there's community reads. This was our 2022 program where we read this lovely book about a young man on the autism spectrum and how that affects his life as he loves trees. The book was about marble murrelets in trees and living on the spectrum. So these were the programs that we presented in relation to this book. See the friends? They do that. This is an art show that's related to the book. All of these pieces were hung in relation to the book, The Eagle Tree, and I was just talking about, this is our creativity part of our mission. This year, our community reads, notice I've removed the word Kubduga. We're doing community reads 2023, and we're reading Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt, and these are the programs that we'll be offering in October. Kubduga or community reads happens every month, every year in October. It takes over the whole month, and it's just fabulous. The Friends are a fabulous group to work with, and we bought 125 copies of this book that we'll be distributing next month to the community. And last of all, last and not least, I'm going to cry. I'm going to step out of my role as the branch manager for a minute and be the public services director. It's breaking my heart to see you go. I don't really think I should talk, but I just want to say thank you. And I want to relate a really quick story that happened when you were being hired. And I was talking to Jane Higgins, and there was another candidate, and he was so flashy. He was talking about building a boat, and he was going to take this maker boat, and it was going to go up to all the river, the gorge, and all of it. And I was like, wow. And Jane Higgins said to me, she's the real deal. And I was like, okay, she's the real deal, but the other guy's flashy. Amelia, you are the real deal. You are. You make our days better across all of Southwest Washington every day. You get up every morning and you fight the fight with us. And I just can't thank you enough for providing guidance, leadership. Through the pandemic, we did not lose one employee. You kept every one of us employed and busy and feeling important because we are. And we wouldn't do it without you. So.
Just so you know, that T-shirt is a comic book character. It's Amelia Rules.
I think I have my two slides out of order. I also wanted to say in October, we also celebrate Halloween. Every year the staff is 15, and we all dress up together of one kind or another that's related to a book. Last October, we dressed up as we get them out to 50, a big muffin, a big pancake, a little muffin, a dotted donut, I think. And then we also celebrate Halloween with our youngest children out of the brain. So October and it's my birthday. Oh, wait, I'm not done. Oh my gosh, Carrie, I'm back. Last story. I swear I could tell stories about libraries forever. But this is my friend Lynn. Lynn is a volunteer extraordinaire. She takes the word volunteer and capitalizes every letter. She's here every single day. She is emptying that barrel that is filled with books endlessly. She's turned our bookstore into something that went from making maybe $50 a month to making hundreds of dollars a month. She's supporting us incredibly, but she's talking to Michael. We met Michael as a volunteer. He came and spoke. He is on the spectrum. He asked if he could speak at the Kuduga program about life on the spectrum because he'd been bullied and had a terribly hard time and wanted to talk. And after that, he asked if he could bring his robot to the library, and he did a program for young children on his robot, which he could talk about forever. But here the two volunteers are. They don't know each other, except they've met at the library. And what they're looking at is a Bible that I believe was in Serbian, and they couldn't figure out what language it was. And Michael and Lynn stood there and worked on it until they were sure it was a Serbian Bible. And then Michael, he carries it around in his backpack. He showed it to me last week. He still has it. So volunteers come in the strangest ways, robots. Thank you, Lynn. And Anna Graham's sitting right next to her, another volunteer. Where's the rest of you? And you know what? I don't really know what they came from the school. They're renditions of the town. We'll pull the screen up when we're done. You'll see that they're all about the town. Oh, okay.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments? Next is the May 2023 financial statements with the TAR.
All right, good evening. Tonight we have the May 2023 financial statements. I think if we scroll down a little bit, we start with, I think a couple pages down. I think one more. All right, starting with the statement of cash. At the end of May, year-to-date revenues were $15 million. And year-to-date expenditures were $12.3 million. Cash balance was $23.4 million. And then the statement of revenues. Oh, okay. Property tax revenue for May totaled $2.4 million. Year to date is at 53% of budget, compared to 55% same time last year. May leasehold excise tax was $31,000, federal in lieu $14.9 thousand, and state forest boards $158. May charges for services brought in $4.2 thousand for the month. Under miscellaneous, May investment interest revenue was $58.6 thousand. Total May revenue was $2.5 million. Year-to-date budget percentage for total operating revenue was at 47.9%, and total revenue was 44%. And then statement of expenses. So at the end of May, we would expect total expenses for year-to-date to be at 41.67%. May personnel costs were $1.3 million, with year-to-date at 39% of budget, compared to 36% same time last year, running lower than budget due to 25 open positions. Supplies and small equipment for the month of May was $52,000, with year-to-date at 23%. May library materials activity was $254,000, with year-to-date at 32.5%. Under other services charges, professional services came in at $87,000, with repair and maintenance at $59.5 thousand. Additionally, communication was at $48,000 and utilities at $34,000. Both are running higher than budget. Capital outlay had minimal activity in May under operating expenditures. Total May operating expenditures were at $1.9 million, and grand total expenditures were $2.5 million. Year-to-date budget percentage for total expenditures was at 36.5%. So basically, for May, revenue and expenditures were $2.5 million. So questions? Yes, I double checked, and Klickitat County, they sent in their report on the last day of the month. So it didn't hit the bank until the start of June. Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second to move the consent agenda as approved?
Second.
Any further discussion? I move this to a vote.
Penny Love Hensley,
Aye.
Olga Hodges,
Aye.
Marianne Ducking Cole,
Aye.
Bikram Katwani,
Aye.
and Chrissy Morgan.
Aye. Motion to approve the consent agenda is adopted.
Trustee Kotwani, would you, just for the record, attest to having reviewed the financials for the month of June?
Yeah, I reviewed the financials for month of June and everything is appropriate and approve it.
So it's come to my attention, there is an issue with the minutes actually from the special meeting on June 26th. It looks like can you say?
On Monday, the 26th, I did give a board comment at the end. I'm wondering, it was hybrid. I'm wondering maybe if it didn't come through clearly. You guys remember? Anybody? When it came in clearly, because I know there's a lot of feedback. But anyway, it's not captured. It should be on a Zoom recording. Should we just? It's on the Monday, the 26th meeting one, and page 26.
Should we just delay approving these minutes and have a chance to go through that and verify it? Megan was there. Why don't I suggest this? Why don't we remove them from approval? We'll forward them to next month and we'll amend them and bring them back corrected. Does that work? Yep.
On our board packet, is in the second page that Wanda hasn't had public comment.
What page is that in the packet? Is it in the packet?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to go with it?
Okay, can I review it real quick? Just to make sure. Wow. That there was some confusion there. It was about a different meeting. So I'm referring to the meeting on June 26th, 2023, where I gave a board comment when people were asking for my resignation. And I talked about being a reference being a refugee.
I'm a little bit of a loss because it's worth.
Why don't we just review it next time? After they added me.
I'd recommend pulling them from this agenda and yeah.
Okay, so the recommendation then is to pull the minutes from Monday, June 26th out of the consent agenda. Are there any questions or discussion about that?
I think that's a good solution for tonight.
Okay, so we're, is there a motion then to pull the minutes from Monday, June 26th out of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Any further discussion? I'll move this to a vote. So we're voting on then, sorry, just to say it one more time, we're voting on taking out of the consent agenda the minutes from Monday, June 26, 2023 for amendment. Go ahead and do a roll call vote, please.
Penny Love Hensley.
Aye.
Olga Hodges.
Aye.
Marianne Duncan Cole.
Aye.
Vikram Katwani.
Aye.
Christy Morgan.
Aye. Right, the motion's adopted. So I guess I love learning in public, but my question then is, does that invalidate our vote on the whole consent agenda or what happens? I'm not sure what to do about that.
I think because you voted and approved the consent agenda, everything on the consent agenda then was approved. By removing one item from that, you're not then negating that vote.
Okay, and then we'll bring the minutes from that one back next time to approve. Okay. All right, thank you. Next up is business. First is the personnel. Resolution 2023-13, contract for acting executive director.
So there's a staff report in your board packet on the appointment of an interim executive director. We have received back a copy of the contract from Justin Keeler signed. And so all that's left is for the board to pass a resolution to approve that contract.
Any questions or discussion?
I appreciate his willingness to serve in the interim. He'll help us out, particularly since we're going to be approaching budget times. And so he'll be able to pull that together for the new director. So I move to approve.
I second. Any further discussion? Okay. I move this to a vote.
Can I ask that? Sorry, can I ask that someone just make sure that we say that the board adopts resolution 2023-13.
I amend my motion to that language.
Is there a motion to adopt resolution 2023-13, contract for interim executive director as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Can we please take this to a vote?
Can you check your microphone? Okay. Penny Love Hensley.
Aye.
Vikram Kotwani,
Aye.
Olga Hodges,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
and Christy Morgan.
Aye. Motion to approve resolution 2023-13, contract for interim executive director is adopted. We'll move on to facilities, resolution 2023-14, authority to negotiate construction contracts.
Thank you, Chair Morgan. In your package, you'll find a staff report on the Woodland Community Library. We received, I'm gonna look to you, Dave, not to put you on the spot, but to confirm, we received, I believe, 6 bids. One was a landscaping bid only, and one was a non-responsive bid. So of the 4 responsive bids we received, the low bid was from Bremick Construction, and that was a bid of 6 million. 6482, so $6,482,000. So I'm asking the board to give us the authority to go ahead and negotiate a contract with Bremick with a not to exceed amount of that low bid of $6,482,000. And because Dave's here, I want to acknowledge his work to date on that project and all the work ahead. But also that his intent is to meet with Bremick and begin to work on some what we call value engineering, which is looking for ways within the project to save some money. So we can hopefully get that number down.
Any questions for Amelia? Is there a motion to adopt resolution 2023-14, authority to negotiate construction contract as presented?
So moved. Seconded.
Any further discussion? I'll move this to a vote.
Mary Ann Duncan Cole,
Aye.
Penny Love Hensley,
Aye.
Vikram Katwani,
Aye.
Olga Hodges,
Aye.
and Christy Morgan.
Aye. Motion to approve resolution 2023-14, negotiate construction contract as is adopted.
Thank you so much. That is great news for us and for the community of Woodland. Next, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of you, Christy. Go ahead.
That's okay. Next is Finance Committee Resolution 2023-15, assignment of reserve funds.
So again, there's a staff report in your packet, and to date, we have set aside about $3 million for the Woodland project within our capital budget. The foundation has received $3 million in grants for this project as well, and the Friends of the Woodland Community Library have raised a little over $600,000. That means we're still somewhat short because we have spent some money to date on pieces of this project, including required work in the street beside the building, adding 10-foot sidewalks, sewer and water, new paving and different things. So of the remaining money that we have for this project, I'm asking the board to set aside some unanticipated revenue from 2022 that could go towards this budget. It's $1,267,858 that was excess revenue at the end of last year. And additionally, we have $519,306 in unrestricted capital that is unassigned. And again, I would ask the board to consider as the project goes along and we find out what those final numbers are, that we have capacity within our budget to pay the bills as they come in. Our hope is, of course, that we will continue to fundraise for this project and, hopefully be able to offset some of these costs in other ways. But I would like to ensure that we have the money to make sure this project gets completed.
Thank you. Any questions?
I'm just trying to remember between the two projects. Is this the one that with the ground? Okay, because that would create some surprises. Has the engineering addressed that issue at all? What did they say?
Yeah, what they're suggesting to us is a pier system that the building would essentially float on. And that's about an $800,000 portion of this project is the site work.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to adopt resolution 2023-15, assignment of reserved funds as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All right, we can move to a roll call vote, please.
Olga Hodges,
Aye.
Vikram Katwani,
Aye.
Penny Love Hensley,
Aye.
Mary Ann Duncan Cole,
Aye.
Christy Morgan,
Aye. Motion to approve resolution 2023-15, assignment of reserve funds is adopted.
I want to just discuss in a bit, or maybe at our next meeting. We've got a lot of construction projects, big ones going on, and we may want to pace ourselves because we've already used a good part of, not a good part, but a significant amount of money in our reserves, and so that we can maybe give some time for these construction projects to get along the ways until we know that there aren't any surprises in the ground or in the air.
Can you tell me, part of this is we need to go before our grants run out, is that true?
That is correct. They are time sensitive. We're already into a new cycle. And, you know, while the state's been very gracious, thanks to COVID, to give us extra time, I would hate to gamble on that. It's a fairly significant investment by the state in this project. And I just, you know, I don't have the confidence that their patience would last forever.
Next is the draft 2024 budget calendar.
So as we go along here, each month, you're going to see the budget calendar moving forward. So we have begun the process of reaching out to our branch libraries and asking them for their budget requests for next year. Those will come back to us in August. And the administrative team will have a budget retreat where they'll go through those requests and determine what they think we have capacity for in the coming year. Atar, Justin, and I just met with the Clark County Assessor's Office this past week and discussed our levy process. We have for a number of years now been doing our own levy. We have a rather complicated worksheet because we are a 4-county jurisdiction. And so we are a little bit unique. Now adding into that are these tax increment finance areas that you might remember that we've talked about, the TIFs. That will begin to also impact us. So Clark County has requested, and we agree with them, that they'll begin to calculate our levy for us. We'll work together with them. They will aggregate our information as it comes in. Usually late September, early October is when we get our forecast. And then by mid-November, we should have final numbers from the counties. And those are the numbers we really rely upon to set our budget, at least the portion that's based on property tax. So you'll see that July is pretty much the month where we spend time kind of gathering data, getting people's worksheets so that they're getting started on the process. And then August and September are the months where we whittle that down and finalize the budget. And that's about the time you'll begin to see draft budgets from us, is that September, October timeframe. Do you have any questions for me? I do have a framework for the 2024 budget. It's based on, you know, a 3% level of growth. And talking to the assessor's office this week, she thought she would have some forecasts for us probably by late August. Does that sound right to you, Atar? I think she said we probably have a new construction forecast maybe by the end of August for Clark County. Yeah, so that'll give us a pretty good sense of, you know, if 3% is in the ballpark, but we're hopeful.
You won't be with us when we really start working on this budget. But I'm assuming your promise of we can get contact with you. Do you foresee any really changes? Because a lot of times budgets look very familiar from year to year. Do you see anything significant that might be changing that pattern?
Not yet. I think this year at least, it's looking like new construction is still pretty robust in Clark County, and Clark is really the driver for us in terms of the total. About 96% of our property tax comes out of Clark County, so by far it's the largest portion. And I would say, at least we're seeing, it looks like we're still having a pretty strong year. We all anticipated a recession by now. It hasn't really happened, so it's hard to say whether or not that may come along. But one of the questions we did ask the assessor's office, this is always, I know this is, I'm hoping everyone stays awake through this part. They do not believe we will have an implicit price deflator this year, which just means if there is a recession and the, shoot, I have to think about this, Atar. The implicit price deflator kicks in when a dollar is worth less than a dollar versus worth more than a dollar. So as long as we have inflation, we will not have the IPD. If we drop below that, it kicks in. And that what that means is it reduces us below 1%.
What's the timing on that kick in though? Because
the following year.
Following year.
Yep.
Okay.
And you can always do a substantial need resolution. Yep.
Any other questions? Next is the internet use and safety policy.
Trying to get to the right place. Yeah, I'll start by talking and then we'll open the public hearing. So one of the things the library district receives as part of our annual income is what's called E-rate. And E-rate is money that the federal government actually gets out of your phone bill. So you have a little tax on there that comes to libraries and schools, and it's specific to helping us offset the cost of telecom. But over the years, telecom, of course, has become more and more related to the internet. So it used to be our phone systems that we got the offset for, but now we get the offset for our access to the internet. And so E-rate comes to us in a very specific way, and that is through what's called the Children's Internet Protection Act, or SIPA. And SIPA regulates those entities that receive E-rate that we have to filter our internet and our computers in the library. And there's some rules around that. And in order to be eligible for E-rate, we have been asked to modify our internet use policy to include some provisions for the safety of children under the age of 18. So what you will see in this revised policy, so the library internet use policy is our existing policy, and I've added the word "and safety," and now we've added some new language in red. And one change from the first reading you had last month was I had included gambling sites, but after talking with our IT department, we are not able to block gambling on our computers. And, adults, whatever they're engaged in terms of, online betting or that kind of thing, we really don't have control over that. However, they did inform me that we have control over proxies and anonymizers, torrent file downloads, and that's when you stream content, basically downloading files or other suspicious websites. So those things are blocked, and that's why I've highlighted that. The other thing that came out of our June discussion was a question about cyberbullying. And so I've just struck that. So now that line 3 reads, engage in threatening or harassing behavior, including on social media sites. And again, that's what SIPA is really looking for, is that if someone is using the library's computers and on social media making threats to other people, that would be behavior that we would ask them to stop. And if you're wondering how we would know, we would assume it would come from whoever is being harassed, asking us or telling us.
I'm assuming legal's reviewed this.
No, Marianne, actually legal has not reviewed this.
Could we have legal review it?
We could. I don't know how much they'll know about it. I've used the language from the SIPA website, and I included that in your staff report. And I can find it easily though. 3231. I see yours. Thank you. So the key points under on the staff report, those are straight from the SIPA website, and that's run by the Federal Communications Agency.
Are there any questions?
I do. I've just got a quick question. On page 37, under policy revisions, under number 1 and 2, I'm just curious how this differentiates digital material from print material in our library.
Well, SIPA is just about the internet.
Okay.
SIPA doesn't include print material.
So then we have rules about pornography in the library in one way, but then we apply a different rule to the screens because of SIPA.
Correct, right. It's about protecting children from the internet.
Okay.
Our rules of conduct policy also covers viewing graphic images in the library. And in that case, let's say you're just sitting at a table and you're looking at a book, or you're holding a book up for other people to see. That would fall under the rules of conduct policy.
Oh, if you were to show somebody that content.
Correct.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's just a lot of different things to follow. It's just my observation that we have stricter rules for internet use than for printed media.
I think that's because what's on the internet is going to be potentially movies, other kinds of content. What we buy in books is, more regulated in that we're making some selection in those cases, where with the internet, it's whatever's on the internet.
I appreciate that.
Other questions or discussion? Because this is the internet use and safety policy, I'm going to open a public hearing. If you would like to make a comment about this policy, each person will have 2 minutes to speak. The same rules as with public comment, just be respectful, no profanity, please. And please say your name when you approach the microphone. So I'm going to open up public comment at this time. Would anyone like to speak on this policy? Only for this policy. Yes, please go ahead. Do you have the timer ready? Okay, 1 second. Let us get the timer pulled up and then we'll let you go.
Okay, Phil Kronos. Olga's right. We've got a discrepancy between what we look on the internet. It's still material. But just because we take money for it, it's still got to be within the policies, the library of what we look at, just because it's in a print material and then it's electronic. And then we say, well, we'll police it here, but we won't police it here. That's clearly a discrepancy, an ethical discrepancy. We got to deal with that. We can't, you're letting the government censor you. That's censorship. Everybody's been talking about censorship. You can't do that. That's ridiculous. That's my point. You're filtering something, but wait a minute. So something's wrong here. Something's clearly wrong. We have to follow the government, but then we can't follow the government with the books. We can't let them come in and say, wait a minute. In genderqueer, there's a pornographic picture on page 167. And then the person could show somebody here in the library that book to their friend, page 167, and that would be okay. But if they typed it in the internet, they could look at it. Wait a minute. Something's wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments about this policy?
Debbie Jennerjohn. The question I have is, what controls or what enforcement do you have in place if you catch somebody doing this? Do you have, is it all just there to say, hey, you're not supposed to do this? Or is there something that you can enforce it with?
If you'd like to answer that, go ahead.
The library district has a rules of conduct policy that includes, Elizabeth, would you mind pulling it up for me? I'll be honest, anytime I respond to a policy question, I look to policy. I don't just say it off the top of my head because that feels risky. Yeah, you know where it is. Scroll down. Okay. Yep, you see number 12 is openly viewing explicit sexual material is not prohibited in the library, but it does rely on people telling us. So as we've known since the advent of filters in libraries, they're not perfect. And sometimes people figure out workarounds. So even though we've got a filter on a computer, people find things. And staff are aware that when that happens, if they see it or someone reports it to them, they will go and ask that person to stop. If they don't stop, they will ask them to leave. If they don't leave, they will exclude them.
Thank you. Any other comments? Or did you want to ask a follow-up question?
I do have a follow-up question. That's okay. So I quickly Googled the reference that was made here by our commenter. And so yeah, it is a graphic image and it is in a book we would offer. And I'm just kind of confused how it's okay in print, but like if someone were to Google, like you can Google page 167, gender queer. Would you pull that up, please? Could you Google that for us and click images? Can you type page? Okay. Will you bring up that page for us to see there? Okay, so if that image right there was pulled up on a computer, would we consider that pornography? And would these people face a consequence for seeing this, for looking at this? Like what would happen if someone did that? Could you please reply, Amelia?
If someone was showing this to someone else without their consent, then yes, we would ask them to leave. But if someone's reading a book in the library, we're not going to look over their shoulder and say, I disapprove of what you're looking at, because that's their private business. This is a book in the adult section of the library. And
I believe it's juvenile.
yes,
Oh, we have this in the adult section? Okay, because it's for juveniles. I mean, it's for
No.
young adults. Forgive me.
no, it's an adult book. It always
Okay.
has been.
All right, and so if that image was pulled up on a computer, that would be considered pornography, correct? We can't know the answer to that. Okay. Just because we have very specific language here, and I'm really grateful for this specific language. This was a very great policy meeting. I felt like we really saw eye to eye on things. It's just, it gets fuzzy, and I think this is just interesting, the comparison. And it would make sense that that sort of content would be in the adult section. That is appropriate, yeah.
I have a follow-up question too. So you said that who decides then what porn is? Like, what's the guideline then? So for the policy, we have to be able to have consequences for it. So you said you didn't know, like, how do you?
Because
how
it's
do
in
you-
the eye of the beholder, it's someone complaining and saying, this is offensive to me.
Well, it's offensive to
I
say.
feel like this is gonna open up a really big conversation that we could have. I don't know if it's appropriate for here, but it definitely needs to be discussed further. Yeah, we'll talk about this further. Are there any other public comments about this policy, though? I'm sorry, can you please go to the microphone and say your name? Thank you.
Gary Wilson. There are ratings on things, R-rated, X-rated. I mean, people make determinations on that. It's not in the eye of the beholder. Sorry, there are.
Thank you. I'm afraid you already had a comment. Sorry. Thank you. Was there one online? Did I see a message pop up? Lucian, go ahead, please.
I agree with the policy. I think it's well written. I think the difference there is because it's a computer screen, it can be seen from many places from afar. And a book, the book is not open on the shelf on that page, so it can't be seen. I think that's the big difference there. This policy has worked for many years. The filter has worked for many years. The staff is aware, like Miss Shelley has said, and I don't understand why the outrage about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any other comments online?
Follow-up question. Do we have a standard practice among our branches? Like the question that was posed about offenders that are viewing, say, pornography. Do we have a protocol that we follow? I know there's exclusion, but is it up to each manager, or what does that look like?
We have our policy. Elizabeth, I don't know if you still have that, you pull it up. Oh, thank you. So there's a consequence. You can see for violating rules 5 to 16. We're talking about number 12. So violators will be given up to 2 warnings at the discretion of staff and may be excluded for up to 1 year. Consequences for repeated behavioral infractions of the same or similar nature may have cumulative exclusions versus like 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, et cetera, at the discretion of staff. So I try to give staff some, ability there to make a decision in the moment based on what it is, we'll just say there's different levels of that, and sometimes different levels of the person you're dealing with and how aware they are of the situation or what they're doing. So we try to give some discretion to staff, but that's our basic guidelines that we provide.
I want to say that I'm concerned about the discretion. I'm concerned that it's up to the judgment of one person in that moment. It's my understanding that folks can hop around libraries and repeat these behaviors. And I would prefer to see some kind of stricter, because we highlight it here in our policy. We take it really seriously for SIPA. And I would really like to see some kind of consistent consequence, namely probably bigger exclusion, because we've had folks give testimony before how, I came in with my 7-year-old, we walked across somebody looking pornography, and my 7-year-old was exposed to pornography accidentally. Of course, no one ever intends that. I know staff are always trying to prevent that. I know security is always trying to prevent that. Not every library has security. But as a parent, that is very deeply concerning. As a woman, that's deeply concerning. It's troubling and sad. And so I just want to be clear that I think we should have a stricter and clearer, not up to the discretion of whatever staff person is there that day, consequence.
Thank you. I'm going to ask one last time for public comment before we close that section. Did anyone ask online? Okay, I'll get to him in just a minute. Is there a motion to close the public hearing portion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Any further discussion on the public hearing portion? Vic, did you want to speak on the public hearing portion or the next part where we talk about the policy before we vote?
On the policy.
Okay. I would move this to a vote. So we're voting right now just to close the public hearing. Can we do a roll call vote, please?
Marianne Duncan Cole.
Aye.
Penny Love Hensley.
Aye.
Vikram Katwani.
Aye.
Olga Hodges.
Aye.
And Chrissy Morgan.
Aye. Motion passes. So next, I would ask for a motion to approve the internet use and safety policy. Actually, we could discuss it first, right? We have a discussion. Go ahead, Vikram. Go ahead with your question or comment.
So as a question is for Amelia, can you let us know how much of that E-rate rebate we get on this for implementing SIPA?
Generally, we get right around $180,000 to $200,000 a year.
Okay.
Atar's
And
checking.
okay, and the requirement for that is that you just implement the internet filtering software. It does not have anything beyond that, that somebody has to physically go around and check what people are using.
That is correct.
And we do have the software for that, right?
Yes,
Okay. So that would make us compliant on that, just for that E-rate SIPA compliance basis.
that is correct. They do ask that we add additional language to our internet policy specific to safety.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Any further discussion?
I have a question. Has there ever been feedback from staff, as far as we know, maybe HR might know, about how they feel having to patrol and monitor for pornographic viewing on computers at the library? I don't understand. From what I understand, it's not like a everyday chronic issue, but it definitely is an occurrence. I'm just curious.
One of the things we consider is that the viewing of graphic images on computers is sexual harassment for our employees. So we take it very seriously. And I would say if you're worried that employees don't police it or ignore it, that's just not true. They take it very seriously.
Oh, I'm not worried that they would ignore it. I just am concerned that it could be really triggering for some staff to have to encounter that. And that our consequences that we are offered are so inconsistent that I kind of wonder we should be a little more forthcoming and what's the right word? Clearly and gently aggressive in how we address the issue with someone that might be repeatedly doing this. And yeah.
Yeah, if it's a branch manager, she can talk about it, but it needs to be into a microphone, so can she unmute and talk? Who is it? Holland? Yep, okay, Holland, if you want to unmute yourself and go ahead and speak, you can.
Thank you. I just want to say, you know, librarians are faced with so many like human issues nowadays that pornography is so far down the list. I mean, we have opioid overdoses in our libraries. We're dealing with people dealing with houselessness. I mean, pornography happens, but it's not chronic, as Olga says. It's not nearly as pervasive as these other issues we're dealing with. It's really not, and we can handle it. Of course, it's upsetting, but so many other things are, and we're equipped. We are okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion from the board?
I have one more question for Amelia.
Go ahead.
Is that E-rate funding, do we get it as a E-rate funding, or do we get it as a telecommunication discount?
We get it as E-rate funding. The telecommunication part has gone now. It's essentially just broadband at this point. And the way it works is we submit always a year in advance what our purchases will be. We actually have to go out to bid on things like servers and other networking equipment, PCs, that kind of thing. And then after we get our bids, then the low bid is submitted for the E-rate funding. And it's about an 80% discount. So the money we get is actually a rebate for what we've spent.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anything else?
I just want to say I'm grateful that we have a policy like this that is motivated to protect minors from graphic and obscene imagery. We do have software that does, I think, a good job to filter these kinds of images. People can certainly work around them. Unfortunately, when people click online to access our internet, they do make an agreement that they won't follow our rules. So I have expressed concern, but I also want to share that I do believe Port Vancouver is doing a good job to the best of their abilities to consider the well-being and safety of minors around obscene and pornographic content. And I believe that the rules around disseminating or viewing child pornography specifically are much more strict, and they're more than just a warning, and then they can hop around different libraries and things like that. So just want to make sure that that's clear, that I understand that.
Is there a motion to approve the internet use and safety policy?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? I'll move this to a vote. Roll call vote, please.
Vikram Katwani,
Aye.
Penny Love Hensley,
Aye.
Olga Hodges,
No.
Marianne Duncan Cole,
Aye.
and Christy Morgan.
Aye. We move to approve the internet use and safety policy. Next is the foundation policy first reading.
Thank you. So I was asked to bring this policy to a first reading at this meeting by the ad hoc MOU committee. And then I brought it to the policy committee and they pushed it forward to the board. So the staff report gives you a history of our relationship with our foundation, the MOU that we are currently in status quo with, and how this policy might fit in to be something specific about our agreement around fundraising. So if I could just move to the policy. So the intent of this policy, or the purpose here, is to create a clear statement of expectations between FVRL and the Fort Vancouver Regional Library Foundation that applies to the Library Board of Trustees' fiscal oversight of the district. So the library and the foundation each have separate roles in fundraising, but we should work together to accomplish the goal of creating general welfare. So the policy, and I want to thank Vikram Katwani for his assistance with this, essentially outlines a number of things that would be expectations. And I just want to state for the record, this is not unusual. We have two other policies that apply to the foundation. We have a gifts policy and a naming policy already in our policy set. So essentially, this is about what the responsibilities will be for the foundation board of directors, raising money consistent with laws, that the executive director of FVRL and a liaison from our trustees will serve as ex officio on the foundation's board of directors. Will be expected to attend for the entire business meeting. The foundation shall exclusively own their donor database and be responsible for that maintenance. They'll cap their overhead expenses at not more than 20% of their total net worth. And Vikram had asked me to add something here that didn't get into the board packet, but he's wanting to add some language here similar to what's in our trustee agreement that board members for the foundation won't have any compensation or any financial gain from serving on the board. So that would be some additional language we'll put in there. It's about communicating our long-term plans for both organizations. Grants applied for and accepted on behalf of the library shall be shared with library staff responsible for grant administration prior to submission. Collaborate on fundraising efforts, which we already do. Shall provide proof of compliance to any donor restrictions upon requesting reimbursement from the foundation after the funds have been expended. And the library will provide services as requested in a timely manner. And that would be things like graphics and other services. We retain the right to use internal or external fundraising organizations for special projects. Library Board of Trustees shall approve outside organizations that are used for that purpose. We retain the right to apply for any and all available government, public, or private grants. And we reserve the right to restrict the use of our name and logo by the foundation and can revoke it at any time. So those are the, kind of the key elements of this policy.
Yep, I do have a question. Can we go back to what you said that's not up there about the board? Were you talking about the foundation board not receiving compensation?
Correct. So our trustee bylaws say that our trustees will not receive any compensation or
Right.
financial gain. And
But can we, I don't understand, I don't know what our job is. Can we dictate what theirs says about theirs then?
this is our policy. But Vikram, do you want to comment on this?
Yes, so for the regional libraries, there is a government RCW available, which says the trustees of the library are unpaid employees, kind of volunteers, right? We don't receive any compensation other than just the expenses, if any are incurred during meetings and other things. So that's the only thing I wanted to be included. That same should carry forward and apply it to the foundation too.
But we can't like oversee all their policy. Wouldn't that just kind of be up to them to put, I don't know how to say what I'm thinking, but we can't make them put things in their policies, right? No one can do that to us, and it just seems kind of like an overreach to say, they have to follow the law. And so, they should be doing that, whatever it says about that. So we shouldn't be dictating that for them, should we?
It is our policy, and as I see, foundation is a extension of library and representing library in all forms for raising the funds. So, the same laws should be applicable to them too, even though they are independent. Yes, but they still carry the name of, Fort Vancouver Regional Libraries Foundation. It's not like XYZ Foundation where they can, have their own rules and regulations as they see fit. So as a government entity and as extension of the same entity, I think some restrictions can be applied. But it's all up to the whole board to vote on that. So this is just a first reading.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand, what does the law say about a foundation receiving compensation? Does anyone know that? Did you say it's?
No, it's applicable for the libraries. I didn't say it's applicable to the foundation, but I think if we should be able to put that language in.
Chair, may I
Go ahead.
make a suggestion?
Yeah.
I think it would be worth speaking with the foundation and finding out kind of what's within their own internal documents in terms of provisions around compensation or financial gain for their board. It may already be in their bylaws or somewhere that might satisfy this. It would be good to know.
Okay.
I think we have to remember that the foundation and the and Fort Vancouver Regional Library have kind of this contractual relationship. They're not subject to the laws of a district like ourselves. They're not a district, and they're providing contracted services. This is the contract that we're describing what those services can be and the kind of funding we're expecting and kind of requirements we would put on the foundation. And we don't want to give them $1 million executive director salary or something like that. And, you know, we have to be careful because they do represent when they're out there seeking funding.
Yeah.
They're representing our needs. I would like to have some more time to kind of review this, but, and it would be good to hear responses back from the foundation.
Yeah, and I would like to make one more comment that, while preparing this document, we referred to other bigger libraries document also, like from the Seattle King County Library and the Denver Library, who had recently undergone a similar kind of reform with their foundation. So again, this was generously adopted from those two.
I know, so I know there are some from the foundation here. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I just wondered if you wanted to add anything, any comments or questions so to help us understand. If you don't want to, that's fine. This is just the first reading. Feel free if you'd like to say anything to do so.
Debbie Jenner John. And the bylaws of the Fort Vancouver Regional Library Foundation say that no board member gets any compensation in any way. So that's been in place for 20-some years, whenever it was founded. So this just sounds like you're trying to rule us and tell us what we can and can't do. And that would be like us ruling you and saying what you can and can't do. And we're two separate boards and we have two separate laws. So I think that's an overstep. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if we should, before the next meeting, have a work session with you so we can talk about goal setting, are we on the same pathway, those kinds of things. And so that we don't have this kind of difference of opinion, which I don't think there really is.
Yeah, and that's not a problem. Anytime you want to meet, that we can meet, that would be awesome. No problem. Okay.
Thank you.
Right now, we're waiting for some decisions from legal counsel before we meet legal counsel.
Other questions or comments about this? Hearing none, we'll move on. Goldendale meeting follow-up.
Thank you. So Trustee Hodges had requested that I follow up on some of the comments that came to us at the board meeting in Goldendale. So that the library district follow up, and I am the representative of the library district. So yes, I'm following up.
That wasn't my request, but I'm happy to hear the update.
Thank you. Yeah, because, and I guess I'm just trying to remind you, I am your employee, but when you direct other employees within the organization to report to you, you're going to get me.
Oh, no, that's fine. I wasn't asking for them to report to me. I was asking for a follow-up. It's in the minutes, but let's hear it.
Correct. Yeah. So I just wanted to follow up. So this is just a little review of last month. We had 23 people comment in person, 5 online. I've reviewed the topics mentioned by the speakers. I've reviewed the display items in the children's area, and I've discussed homeschool efforts with our staff. 4 of our commenters talked about the need for us to resist censorship and protect free access to materials at the library. I feel there's no action needed at this time because we have a very robust collection policy. And you can see all the bullet points here, but essentially, because we have a good policy, I believe we already do all of these things. We certainly protect as many voices as possible to be represented in our collection. We do not exclude materials based on, race, nationality, religion, gender, sexual orientation, politics, or social views. Just a reminder that parents and guardians have a responsibility to guide and direct their own minor children, because that came up last month. Materials will not be sequestered, altered, or labeled because of controversy. And we do recognize the rights of individuals or groups to question materials within the collection, and that the board considers everything protected under the Constitution and the First Amendment. We had 6 commenters talk about Drag Queen Story Hour last month, 3 for, 3 against. Again, no action is taken at this time. We are not currently offering Drag Queen Story Hour at any location. We haven't had one since October of 2019. Primarily because we are very concerned over the negative atmosphere that would be created by protesters and possible threats of violence. We've seen what's happened at other libraries throughout the nation and are concerned about the safety of our participants, as well as everyone else that's at the library. We were requested to have more services and materials for homeschool families. That was 4 of our speakers. The action taken, I've spoken with the branch manager. She reported that she's met with 2 of the individuals. Their names Johnson and Childs. She's requested lists of desired titles. She's discussed steps for ensuring materials are available as needed, and we'll work with those individuals on their ability to use the catalog to look for materials and order them in advance. She's offered tours and orientations to our online resources for individuals and groups. She's partnered with WAGAP this summer to provide family events for the whole community, and she will offer more programs for homeschool families this fall. We currently have a fairly full list of programs going on because of summer reading. I then reviewed all of the materials that were on display in the children's area at the date of that meeting. There were 14 people who specifically commented on that. I found no evidence of specific concerns expressed related to inappropriate content, lewdness, depravity, nudity, adults and minors engaged in sexual acts or other sexual behaviors on display in the children's area. I do have the books with me tonight if you would like to see them for yourself. I did not view the adult or review, the adult or the young adult or teen materials. I specifically looked at picture books, juvenile fiction, and juvenile nonfiction, which would have been on display in the children's area. And I think it's important to remember that FVRL has a floating collection, and it's hard for us to guarantee that any particular book will be on any particular shelf at any particular time because they move around within our libraries. But Tara understands some of the interests in the community, and we'll be looking to try and put more books as she can on their shelves that are of interest. I do want to point out in last month, I did get circulation statistics. So the first chart is of the Pride display books, and I've highlighted Goldendale for you. So in 2022, 11 of those items circulated, and in 2023, 15 circulated in the month of June. So those are specific to the items that were on display. And then you can see to the right, the share of Goldendale overall, just about 6,000 items circulated in the month of June. And I guess what I'd point out is 2.68% of the total number of items in the Pride display, 4%. So it's not a significantly dissimilar number from what normally circulates in Goldendale compared to the rest of our collection. We did have 3 people talk about support and gratitude, how much they appreciated the library. Certainly many speakers talked about the opportunity to speak and how positive that was and how important it was to have the library as a community asset. And then finally, we had some general concerns raised by speakers that I did not take action on. And those were just some of the questions that came up that I decided I didn't really have a place for them, so I just put them here at the end, but they were things I didn't really have a response for. And that's it. So I guess I'd ask if you have any further questions for me.
It is my understanding, it's my understanding that contact was not made with those two names. So it'd be great to have follow-up on that if there is actually action taken. The two names, yeah.
Tara gave me their names as the people she spoke with, so
The day of the meeting.
the day of the meeting and then afterwards as well. And she said she's received a list of books from, titles from one of them.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
I do want to thank the Friends, the Friends of the Library for the good cake and refreshments, and I appreciate your hospitality. Thank you.
Any other board comments for the whole meeting? Anything else? Thank you all for coming. Thank you for having us and for the treats. Our next regular meeting will be Monday, August 21st, 2023. It will be hybrid and in person at Ridgefield Community Library. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Aye.